Are Americans tired of hearing about studies? Red wine is good for your heart. Red wine is bad for your heart. 1 cup of coffee a day helps this, but it hurts that. I think you know what I'm talking about here. The latest health warnings comes from the U.S. Surgeon General now. He is raising the alarm that loneliness is a public health emergency, with more than half of Americans reporting that they feel lonely. The Surgeon General told NewsNation's Elizabeth Vargas that it hits all walks of life. Take a listen.
This is a universal struggle, one that we shouldn't be ashamed to talk about. In fact, when we do share our story, we find that many other people nod and say, yes, okay, I'm not the only one. That's what happened to me when I wrote this editorial. I heard from so many people who said, I'm struggling as well. All right, I want to welcome in our panel right now. Jacquie Jordan, media expert and host of the podcast Front and Center with Jacquie Jordan, and author Julio Rivera, host of the Conservarican podcast. Thank you both for being here, and we'll start with you, Jacquie. I mean, there's no question that science is important. When the Surgeon General says we have a loneliness epidemic that is significant, are Americans tuning out at this point?
Well, can you blame them as a media professional? I do think we are in media overload altogether, but are we surprised, even from the Surgeon General, that we've just spent the last 2 years, 3 years in a lockdown and a quarantine that had people very isolated? And a lot of people I even know personally have still not integrated back fully either into the workforce or into society as a whole. So it's not a surprise that we are suffering from an epidemic of loneliness. And then we add technology on top of it so that we stay connected through technology and not human connection. And I think that it's a problem overall. And then just the data about the data is a little overwhelming for Americans, I believe.
Overwhelming, certainly. And Julio, it seems like there's so many conflicting studies. If you try hard enough, you can find one that supports your point of view. So, for example, if you love coffee, but a new study says it's bad in one aspect, you can just Google the one that says it's great. Is that part of the problem?
Exactly. You can find supporting evidence for any point that you want to make by Googling, and you'll find a study that supports your point of view. But in this particular study, in terms of the loneliness thing, I think coming off of the pandemic, I think there is some semblance of validity to it. But again, I think Americans are overwhelmed and I think bogged down with a little bit too much information. At the end of the day, everybody's got their own opinion. Some people like to be alone.
Yeah, and maybe science journalism can do a better job painting the picture for Americans and showing, well, this is a study of 8,000 people, 24 different studies, versus this is a study of 10 people, and we need more research, certainly.
And the great point that you bring up overall is the amount of discernment that people need also for information right now, because we're at a point of time where we have so much access to information. But the story and the narratives change from a day-to-day perspective. So we've really, as even of a collective, as an audience, had to really learn discernment to what is really impactful to us personally in the immediate moment and what isn't at this time period.
Yeah, and panel, we want to get your take on another story that has us talking right now. The Netherlands trying to make insects more accepted as a meat replacement, a valuable protein source. So here's what we found interesting about this. They are marketing the idea to kids in public schools. They say this is how they get the idea to catch on, because kids are just more open to new things than adults are. And, perhaps adults too set in their ways. I mean, Julio, what do you think? Could you be convinced to eat crickets?
No, I certainly would never eat bugs voluntarily, but this is something I think environmentalism is getting to the point where in some of the further corners of this it's getting a little cultish to the point where they're trying to push it on kids to eat bugs now. What we're seeing right now, I think, is a little bit extreme. I think that people always want to enjoy food. It's one of the few things that we have in life that we actually can still enjoy. They're trying to outlaw this, they're trying to outlaw that. These things are bad, these things are good. Food will always be good. Nourishment. Enjoy food, enjoy meat, enjoy whatever it is that you'd like to eat, but don't force bugs down the throats of children. I would definitely have a problem.
That's a strong stance. I mean, Jacquie, what do you think? If it's, cricket powder and you can just bake it in a cookie, is it really the end of the world?
Well, if you want to change society, you change it in one generation and you get them to accept it as a norm, and doing it to children is certainly the way to do it. But we do have bugs in our food already, and it's usually under things as like Jell-O, lac, and it's in things like tomato sauce and peanut butter. So we are actually already eating bugs in some of our very popular foods, which I'm not a fan of, and I've already been onto this game for a while, and I don't like the popularization of eating foods. There's even a TikTok video, or a popular TikTok video type video of Nicole Kidman, actress, Academy Award winner, making it really cool to also eat bugs. So there is definitely an infiltration of a conversation that eating bugs is cool and we should be happy about it. And I think it goes under that whole line of, you know, we shall have less and be happy. I'm not happy about this idea.
Julio, I heard your audible groan as she said she's talking about this. There's one more topic with the time we have left that I would love for you both to weigh in on. That what does the future of DNA and genetic testing look like? The CEO of 23andMe is now saying we are just at the tip of the iceberg of this. She says way more people are willing to share their health information as long as they don't feel like test subjects and they feel more like they're contributing to medical research. Let's start with you, Julio. Is that surprising to you that people are being so open with their really sensitive medical information?
Well, you know what? I'm a big believer in HIPAA. I believe that we have to protect each other's medical information, and we have the right to privacy with things regarding medical information and our own personal health and history. But, you know, I think I actually like this a lot. I think that this can go a long way towards, you know, predictive treatment from doctors. You know, if you're predisposed to potentially having one type of cancer or one type of disease, or if there's something, you know, in your genetic makeup that may lead you, even, let's say, psychologically, you know, there's a lot of people that have, let's say, alcoholism or depression in their families. You know, this is something that you can kind of get out in front of if you know that you already have the genetic predisposition for it. So I'm all for it, to be honest.
And Jacquie, let me get your response to this, because I think there's a really important and significant use case here where more and more in significant criminal investigations, we are seeing that familial DNA through 23andMe, through Ancestry, is actually leading investigators to the suspect that they're looking for. I mean, how would you feel if your health information, you just wanting to know, like, oh, like what percent Irish am I, leads to a family member being arrested for a crime?
Well, there's a couple things real quickly, is that I think we lost the path between I've got nothing to hide versus I have a right to privacy. And because we took the line of I have nothing to hide, we put all of our information data out there voluntarily. And now it's being, you know, monetized and corporatized. Personally, I think as people, we deserve to have been paid for our data that we put out there. But in terms, you know, I had this in a personal a friendship where she discovered that she had a sister that she didn't know that she had because of the testing. So, you know, that changes people's and rearranges people's entire lives, this type of information. But I do, you know, I caution that we need to be in control of our individual and autonomous and sovereign information overall, and be careful what we're being, you know, we're participating in, even if it is for the greater good.
Certainly. Okay, Jacquie Jordan, Julio Rivera, really appreciate your time. A wide range of topics, but thank you so much.
Yeah.